Welcome back to Cooking and Eating Healthy with Anna. And today's program, we're going to be cooking roast beef, and we're going to be cooking roasted kabocha squash. And today I made a kabocha soup, which is absolutely delicious, but I didn't want to put it out there until I tried it first. It is very good. So we're going to start off with kabocha. I want to talk a little bit about kabocha squash. If you see a squash in the supermarket, it's green. It looks like a flat pumpkin. And kabocha squash is very, very healthy for you. It's very hard though. So the process for cooking it, to be able to cut it first, is you line a cookie sheet with foil. Wash your kabocha squash, the whole thing, on the outside. Don't peel it or anything. Dry it off. Put it on the cookie sheet, the foil lined, and you're going to be putting it in the oven at, let me see, 400 degrees for 20 minutes. You then take it out. When it's cool enough to touch, you're then going to take, I use a meat cleaver to cut it down the center and then remove the seeds from it. And then I take a knife and I just cut off the skin, okay? Then you're able to put it down on your chopping block and cut it in wedges and then cut it in chunks. You could take it, you could freeze it after that, after it's cooled. You could freeze it. I used it for the kabocha squash soup, and I'm making roasted kabocha squash today, sort of candy flavored. So what I did today was I measured out my kabocha squash and put it in a baggie. And the measurements on this was 348 grams, okay? And you're going to now take it, put it in a baggie, and then you're going to take a tablespoon, after you've cut it in small chunks, I'll show you the size chunks, you're going to take a tablespoon of olive oil and pour it over the squash in the bag. And then in a mixing bowl, you're going to add a half a teaspoon of the Truvia liquid, or actually add it in the bag with the oil. And then in a little cup, put a quarter of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a quarter of a teaspoon of salt, and a quarter of a teaspoon of pepper. And then you're just going to mix that up, pour it over this, seal your little bag, and mush it all in. I then throw it on the counter in a plate and leave it in the bag. You can leave it sit there all day and just flip it every once in a while, okay? Then you'll be ready to roast it. You're going to take it and I have an oven going at 425. So we're going to take it then and just dump it out. If you have all this done, everything is prepared ahead of time, you don't have to worry about a thing. And just put it in a single layer on your cookie sheet. And making it with the foil just makes it so much easier to clean your pan. You don't have to wash it like crazy and scrub it out. It's much better. I line everything with foil. So here we go. Now you see the size of the cubes. You see that? Okay. We're going to take this and we're going to put it in the oven at 425 for 20 minutes. Okay. Put my timer on for 20 minutes. And then we're going to do the roast beef. Let me get the roast beef. And here we have your roast beef. 14 ounces raw, which then brings it to 10 ounces after it's cooked. So that's 5 ounces each, okay? You're going to take it, dry it really well. You're going to slice it. You should get out of each tenderloin that weighs that much 3 nice to 3-4 slices, okay? And then you're going to just put a little bit of salt, 1/4 teaspoon and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, sprinkle it on top of your each slice. And then we're going to brown it here. On a medium heat. We're going to let this get nice and hot. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the cooking of your beef. After you brown it on both sides, you're then going to take it, leave it in the pan, and you're going to put it in a 275-degree oven for 10 minutes, okay? That's how long it'll take for me to cook my roast beef. Joe and I like it medium rare, which is 125 degrees for the temperature with your thermometer. And that will take you to medium rare. I leave it in for 10 minutes. For medium, you want 135 on your meat thermometer. Medium well is 145, and well done is 160. It will be like shoe leather. Trust me. The medium and the medium rare is very good. And then the other day we made my vegetable relish, and I will then, when this is removed from the oven, we'll take the vegetable relish and just sprinkle it across the top of the meat. Okay, so now let's take the beef. We're just gonna put it in here. See how many nice pieces I'm getting here. And this is about the thickness you want, just to show you what it looks like, okay? This is what we'll do with the beef. And you're just going to brown it. Let me put this aside. While this is cooking, or just browning, or not cooking it, we're just browning it. You see, it doesn't take that long either. Once this, I have it in a skillet, black iron skillet. You see how quickly it does brown? Some of it is not getting brown enough. Okay, let me get a plate. Some of this, especially if it's in the center, will get browner than the edges. I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit more. And then I'm just going to put it on a plate. And just set it aside, because we're then going to put it back in here once it's all browned. And we're going to put it in the oven. It doesn't take long for this to cook. In the meantime, I want to show you the squash. This is the squash soup. Absolutely delicious. And we'll talk a little bit about the squash soup. So, after you've made your kabocha squash and you've taken it out and you've sliced it and everything and cubed it, for the soup, you're going to get 3 cups raw, which will be 348 grams. Use your scale to measure it. And you're going to make sure it's dry. Put it on foil cookie sheet. And hold on one second. Let me just check this. Oh yeah, see, this is browning up quickly. Yeah, we have to move it over, so I'll go back to the soup in a minute. I just want to make sure that this doesn't get overcooked. Have to move it around a little bit. Okay, so for the soup you get 6 servings. 6 servings is a ½ cup serving. And you're going to, let me get back to this. Yes, it's cooking up pretty fast. Let me get into this first, and then we'll go back to the soup. Oh, this is nice. Okay. A little piece on here that's red. So we're just going to toss that back in there for a second. Okay, that's done. Now I'm going to shut this off. Okay, so getting back to the soup. So after you've cut it, you're then going to bring it to a boil. And once it comes to a boil, you're going to simmer it for 30 minutes, uncovered. And in it, you're going to add, before it starts to boil, you're going to add 3 cups of the squash. And, oh, I want you to take it, before you do any of that, I want you to take it and puree it. I put it in a food processor. I puree it, measure your 3 cups, then puree it, then put it in a big pan, okay, a soup pan. And you're going to add a ½ teaspoon of salt, 3 cups of low sodium chicken broth, 1 cup of chopped leeks, and a ½ teaspoon of dry thyme. And you're going to let that whole thing come to a boil. Once it boils, you're going to put it on simmer for 30 minutes uncovered. Oh, I'm sorry. Also add ½ teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1 garlic clove, minced, 6 whole peppercorns, 1/8 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and a ½ teaspoon of ground ginger. And you're going to let that boil, like I said, for 30 minutes. Or let it boil and then lower it for 30 minutes. Then you're going to take it off. That's uncovered. And once it's hit the 30 minutes, I have something I have to show you. It's an immerser. This is what I use. Okay? And you could immerse, put it in your pot and just immerse it till it's smooth. And this is what we use. Joe does this for me. So it gives him something to do also. And then after that's done, put it back in the pot, or if you're doing it in the pot, just leave it there, put it back on the stove, and you're going to boil it for 30 minutes more. Come to a boil, then lower to simmer on 30 minutes. You're going to then remove it from the heat, and in it, you're going to add a half cup of heavy cream. I didn't have heavy cream. So if you want to make something in place of the heavy cream, which is what I did, it's a quarter of a cup of the Greek yogurt, 0%, and a quarter of a cup of almond milk. If you don't have the heavy cream for soups or stews or anything like that, you can make this little concoction. It's the same thing, okay? And then that's it. Let it simmer for 30 minutes. Then you add in the cream that you just made, and you stir it up really well, and that's it. That's your soup. So this is what it looks like. It's absolutely delicious. If you have a sweet tooth, this is for you. So now we're going to take the beef, and we're going to take it and put it back in the pan on 125. Let me just move this around a little bit to make room. Make sure your juices go back into the pan. You don't want to waste those juices. And let me get my pot holders. So don't forget, I'm cooking this for like 10 minutes, okay? When that's cooked, it'll register 125, which is where we like it. We don't like it overcooked. So then we'll check it with that. So we did our soup. We're doing the Kabocha squash, and the roast beef is in the oven. So we've got all that done. For the 365 group, a recount, our squash, roasted squash would be 1.5 fats, 3/4 condiments, and 1 green. That's a half a cup serving, okay? The roast beef would be a half a green and 1 lean. Your Kabocha soup is 6 servings of half cups. It's 1 green, 3 condiments. So that is a recap for the 365 group. Your Kabocha squash, I have to tell you, is such a healthy thing. It cuts your blood, lowers your blood pressure. It's healthy in many, many, many other ways. For diabetics, it's very good. Lowers your sugar and helps you lose weight. Calories are very low. So it's almost like the delicate squash that we did the other day. In the microwave, I have from the other day, I have the braised cabbage, which I'm going to heat up. And I made a little broccoli rabe the other day, so I'm going to heat that up. And then the vegetable relish I have in there also, I'm going to heat that up. So in the last 5 minutes of cooking, or 4 minutes of cooking, hit your microwave and you've got everything good. You're never going to waste leftover food, okay? You're going to always add it in something. I make sure you use everything. So that's it for now. In 8 minutes we have left, we'll come back and I'll show you the outcome of everything. We're back. So we're removing, it's not even, it's just about 10 minutes, not quite. Oh, excuse me 1 minute. Okay. All right, now this is done and we're going to check our squash. Okay, let's put our meat on the plate. And you'll sit there and say, oh, that's a lot of meat. Well, you know what? You could have it. Okay. And let's get the squash on a plate. And I would say probably after maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes, check the squash because the smaller pieces got a little overcooked. So I would check it ahead of time. There we go. This is our squash. You just want it to where you could pierce it. Okay. And the other stuff is coming out. So let me get that. They're going to take this, which is the vegetable relish, and we're going to put that across our meat. Look at this. Doesn't this look delicious? All right. Let me get my other stuff. Joe will get the broccoli rabe. I love my cabbage, so I'm getting the cabbage. And the cauliflower. cauliflower on for me. And this is dinner. This is Joe with the broccoli rabe, the cauliflower, the squash, and the roast beef. Here, Joe. And this is mine with the squash, the cabbage, braised cabbage, and I made a mistake, and the roast beef. And let's see what it tastes like. Yes, I don't think you want to do it more than 125 with your thermometer for your meat. Very good. Now, some people like it rare, which would be less than 125. But they recommend you to keep it at 125 at least. So I would stay with the 125. And that's it for tonight. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Buon appetito.